Welcome to Chapter 12, where the government finally enters the market. We'll use everything we built about demand, supply, and equilibrium to analyze what happens when policy interferes with the price. We start with a cap, the price ceiling. Until now, we let the market set the price entirely on its own. But governments often don't like the price the market produces. So they intervene, and the first tool we'll study is a legal limit on how high the price may go. A price ceiling is a legal maximum price. Sellers are simply forbidden to charge more than this amount. The government declares a top price and enforces it. But here's the crucial condition. To have any effect, the ceiling must sit below the equilibrium price. A ceiling set above equilibrium does nothing because the market is already trading below it, perfectly legally. Let's take bread as our example. Suppose bread naturally clears the market at 10 shekels. The government decides that's too expensive and rules that bread may not cost more than, say, 8 shekels, a cap set below the market price. Here it is on the graph. Demand slopes down, supply slopes up, and they cross at the equilibrium price, P star. We draw the ceiling as a horizontal line sitting below that equilibrium. Now watch the producers. At the lower, capped price, making a large quantity would mean producing units whose cost exceeds what they're allowed to charge. So producers cut back, supplying only the amount where their marginal cost matches the low price. Read that off the supply curve at the height of the ceiling, and you get a small quantity supplied. Call it QS. The cap has shrunk what producers are willing to make. But on the buyer's side, the opposite happens. At the low price, consumers want a large quantity. Read that off the demand curve at the ceiling, and you get a big quantity demanded, QD. Cheap bread is popular. Put both on the graph. At the ceiling, the small QS sits to the left, and the large QD sits to the right. The gap between them, with demand far exceeding supply, is excess demand. This excess demand is a shortage. Quantity demanded exceeds quantity supplied, and because the price is frozen by law, it can't rise to close the gap the way a free market would. The shortage simply persists. So the government faces a problem. To keep the ceiling in place, it must somehow supply that excess demand. There are 4 main ways it can try to do this. The first way is to use government stocks. If the state holds the good in its own warehouses, it can release that stock into the market, selling it at the capped price to satisfy the extra demand. The second way is imports. The government buys the good from abroad and sells it at the low domestic price. It may even subsidize importers, giving them an incentive to bring in the good and sell it at the ceiling. The third way is to subsidize producers. The government pays producers a fixed sum on each unit they make. From the producer's point of view, this is just like a fall in their costs, as if raw materials got cheaper. On the graph, that cost reduction shifts the supply curve to the right. I'm keeping the original supply faded so you can see the move. The new supply curve sits out to the right of the old one. With their costs lowered, producers are now willing to make enough to satisfy the full demand, even at the low ceiling price. The supply rises to meet the demand, and the shortage closes. But if none of these options is available, the government is forced into the fourth way, rationing. Consumers are allowed to buy only the limited quantity QS that producers actually make, and no more. What does rationing mean in practice? The scarce supply is divided up and handed out in fixed amounts, a set quantity per person or per family. Everyone receives less than they would like. And rationing breeds a black market. The unmet demand doesn't simply disappear. Buyers who want more and are willing to pay more find sellers willing to break the rules. An illegal market springs up alongside the official one. So given all these problems, why does a government impose a ceiling at all? Because, despite the shortage, the ceiling lets consumers buy certain essential goods at a low, protected price. That's the social motive. We see this in real life. Israel, for example, has a set of price-controlled goods with legal maximum prices: bagged milk, uniform bread, black bread and white bread, butter, and cooking oil. The goal is social, to let ordinary households buy these basic staples at controlled, affordable prices so that no one is priced out of the essentials. That's the rationale behind the whole policy. But there's always a trade-off. Yes, the price is lower for those who manage to get the good. But there's a shortage, so not everyone can. And there's the constant risk of a black market forming around the unmet demand. Let's check the two cases. If the ceiling is set above equilibrium, then the market price is already legal and below the cap. The ceiling is non-binding and nothing at all changes. But if the ceiling is set below equilibrium, the price isn't allowed to rise to the market clearing level. The result is a lasting shortage, exactly the situation we've been analyzing. Let's state the mechanism in brief. A cap below P star makes quantity supplied fall and quantity demanded rise. That gives excess demand, a shortage, and it's managed through stocks, imports, producer subsidies, or rationing. Let's put some numbers on all of this with the bread market, so you can see the shortage exactly. Here's the schedule. At 12 shekels, buyers want 600 loaves and sellers offer 1,400. At 10 shekels, both are 1,000. At 8 shekels, buyers want 1,400, but sellers offer only 600. First, find the equilibrium. With no government cap, bread clears at 10 shekels, where quantity demanded and quantity supplied are both 1,000 loaves. That's our starting point. Now the government imposes a maximum price of 8 shekels. Since 8 is below the 10 shekel equilibrium, the ceiling binds, and the market can't reach its natural price. Look at the producers at 8 shekels. Reading the supply side of the table, they're willing to make only 600 loaves at that low price. Their quantity supplied has shrunk. Now the consumers at 8 shekels. Cheap bread is popular, so buyers want 1,400 loaves, far more than at the old price. Quantity demanded has jumped. So the shortage is 1,400 minus 600, which is 800 loaves of unmet demand. That's the gap the ceiling has opened up between what people want and what's made. And that 800 is the problem the government now has to solve. It must supply those 800 loaves somehow, from its own stocks, from imports, or by subsidizing producers, or else ration the limited bread that does get made. Let's summarize. A price ceiling is a legal maximum price, and it only bites when it's set below equilibrium. It creates excess demand, which is a shortage. The government maintains it using its own stocks, imports, producer subsidies, or rationing. And rationing risks creating a black market. The one line to remember: a maximum price set below equilibrium always means a shortage. In the next lesson, we turn to the mirror image policy, a price floor, a legal minimum price. Instead of a shortage, it creates a surplus, and we'll see how the government deals with that. That's lesson 12.2. And keep this picture in mind. A ceiling helps buyers in the short run by holding the price down, but it starves the market of supply, leaving a shortage that someone always has to manage. If this lesson helped, please subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and share it with someone who's studying economics. And to keep getting extra materials, join our members club, where you'll find the full quiz library, fully worked solutions, and more practice questions. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next lesson.